Welcome to the Shootin' Show, brought to you in part by Gun Owners of America, Larry Pratt, Executive Director, and by Shooting Times Magazine, and also by Springfield Armory, Wesson Firearms, the United States Practical Shooting Association, Dillon Precision, Ducks Unlimited, the International Handgun Metallic Silhouette Association, Clark Custom Guns, Shotgun News, Fort Knox, Wyoming Arms, and a number of other good friends and supporters.
Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, and welcome again to this week's edition of the Shootin' Show. I think we've got another interesting and informative program for you. We have some information I know you're going to be anxious to learn. We're going to start the show today with a little Automag 2 made by AMT out in California, and it's in 22 Magnum chamber. And as I've said before, I feel like the 22 Magnum, especially with hollow points, is one of the most underrated cartridges going. So let's shoot some steel plates with this AMT Automag 2 and let another shooting show begin. Now friends, one of the guns that we have on this week's program, and I suppose you could almost call this week's show Semi-Automatic Day. We ran a piece on revolvers on last week's program. So today we're going to look at several semi-automatic handguns. This is a new gun for me. In fact, this is the first one I've really handled and had an opportunity to shoot. This is a Grendel P12. Now, the good Grendel folks are located, it says on the gun, down in Rockledge, Florida, I believe. That's what it says. And they have one of the neatest concepts to come along in some time that I'm aware of. This, as you can tell, is a small handgun. In fact, it's actually, and we know, of course, it's unloaded. You know me, I'm going to check them and check them. But this gun is actually smaller than my hand. It's in .380 chambering, caliber .380, and it holds 12. Now, a lot of new products that come along, some of them work, some of them don't, but I'm very pleased to say that this little gun functions extremely well. We have shot it with full metal jacket ammunition, and we've also shot it with the Winchester Silver Tip hollow point. And let's see if we can get a little closer look at the Grendel P12. You can tell, again, it's a very small handgun, and the frame appears to be made out of some kind of high-strength plastic, and of course the slide and barrel are made of steel, but it doesn't have an external safety. It has a double action only trigger, and I would suppose the weight on this trigger is probably 12 or 14 pounds, but that in itself is a safety mechanism because you're not nearly as likely. It's going to take some effort to pull the trigger on this little gun. It appears to be very well made, and our preliminary tests have shown the gun to be accurate within its limitations of a very small handgun. And I tell you what, friends, now a .380 is not that far behind some of your .38 special chambers in small revolvers. We chronographed the Winchester Silver Tip out of this little gun at about 850 or 875 feet per second, and we did some expansion tests on the silver tip, and it expanded. The silver tip bullet expanded extremely well. Most impressive. This would, I think, would be an excellent backup gun, or if a lady is looking for a semi-automatic handgun to carry, if she's licensed to carry a concealed handgun, one to have in her purse, because it really looks to be a trouble-free design. The bullets ride up high in the magazine in relation to the barrel, and it has a really well-made ramp going into the barrel. So I think it's going to function extremely well. We haven't shot the gun that much, but we haven't had any malfunctions with it through, I suppose about 100 rounds. The good news is it's a fairly inexpensive handgun. I've seen these guns retail for about $150, and depending on where you are, you may find them slightly more or slightly less, but they take down pretty easy for cleaning, and really I'm impressed. a lot of new products come along that you don't know what to think about them, but I'm genuinely impressed by this little Grendel. Now, friends, since this is a plastic framed semi-automatic gun, again, as I've said many times before, you must have a locked wrist to shoot these guns and make them function reliably. Although we've done some experimenting with this gun and we haven't been able to make it malfunction yet with a limp wrist, but to be on the safe side, you should have that locked wrist to make these alloy or like the Glock, a plastic framed automatic to make them function properly. And of course, every shot will be the same. This is another feature I really like about this gun. Every shot, every time you pull the trigger, it's always the same. And you don't have to worry about the hammer being cocked, or putting it back into your pocket or wherever, because the hammer will not stay cocked. It's double action, and we know, of course, it's empty. But the gun to be fired, you pull the trigger all the way through. It has a hammer that you can see here. It's just like a double action revolver in the way it works. And again, this is such a neat concept, and trust me on this one, 12 silver tips would not be an uncomfortable thing if you needed a gun. And of course, if you need a gun, you normally need it real bad, and there's two things that you want. You want functioning and reliability, and you want an adequate caliber. So I am most impressed with this little Grendel, especially for the money. For $150, it looks like it's going to be a durable little gun, and it certainly gets high marks from us. So we're going to shoot this in just a moment and let you look at it on paper and just see what it'll do. Now, friends, the way that we load this gun, I've loaded the magazine with 11 silver tip cartridges by Winchester. You insert the magazine in the base like most other semi-automatic handguns. Pull that slide back. Again, do not put your finger on the trigger. If you don't want to shoot, don't put your finger on the trigger. It's that simple. Grasp the gun by the frame like so. Pull the slide all the way back and let it go. And of course, it loads itself. Now then, to get the full 12-round capacity, we'll take the magazine out and we'll put one more round in it. The magazine holds 11, and of course with one in the chamber, it holds 12. Now watch the gun in my hands. It really doesn't have a lot of recoil, but watch it shooting these full charge silver tips. It's got a little bounce to it. It's not objectionable, and it just spits right out of there. All right, let's try the gun on paper in just a moment. Now, friends, we have a rough approximation of an IPSC type target over here on my left, and let's shoot a full magazine and one in the chamber through this little Grendel 380 fairly rapidly. We've got a mixture of silver tips and full metal jacket ammunition, and normally if you want to make a semi-automatic handgun that's a little finicky about ammunition, if you want to make it jam, just mix the ammunition between hollow points and full metal jacket. But let's just see what it'll do in this little circle I've drawn on this paper target here. You know, that was fairly rapid, and of course the slide is locked back. It's told us it needs to be reloaded. But you know, friends, that's a fairly rapid group. Of course, you have to let the trigger come all the way forward for each shot, but that's not. And let's see if we can get a close-up of that group over here at about 10 or 12 feet. Now, friends, you know, at about 12 feet, that's only about a 2.5 or 3 inch group on this paper target, and that's not a bad group at all to be pretty rapid fire. Friends, I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a small yet pretty potent semi-automatic handgun with a very fine safety overall mechanism built into the gun, we certainly recommend you take a look at the Grendel P12 in 380. For the money, it's an excellent buy. It looks like it's going to be very durable. It is reliable, certainly as much as we've shot it. So this is one that if you're looking for a small handgun like this, you probably ought to take a look at.
You know, guns have been a part of the American tradition since the days when much of this country was still a frontier. Hi, I'm Grits Gresham. Sure, much has changed since then, but that tradition still carries with it a personal obligation to use guns in a safe and responsible manner, and to speak up if you see others using or storing guns improperly. Remember, for every freedom we enjoy comes a responsibility we must assume. This message is a public service of this station and the National Shooting Sports Foundation.
It's fast. It's exciting. It's challenging. It's fun. This is the USPSA, United States Practical Shooting Association, the fastest growing sport in America today. If you'd like to become more proficient and confident with your firearm, meet new and interesting people, and compete with thousands around the world, join the USPSA. There's a local chapter near you.
Friends, the Shooting Show will be back in 1 minute after this break for your local cable company or television station. Friends, they're moving us again on satellite. Beginning June 18, the Shooting Show will be seen on Telstar 301, Channel 19. For those of you who are watching at home, please make a note of this on satellite, and engineers and TV stations and cable companies, please make a note. We'll be on Telstar 301, Channel 19 at the same times beginning on June 18. Now, some information you may need, it'll be on transponder 10 vertical, so please make a note of that. And now, friends, we're very pleased to present Lieutenant Colonel Art Alphin, retired, formerly of West Point, who now heads up the great A-Square Company. And they, of course, build some of the finest big game rifles in the world. For more information on A-Square products, write to them at A-Square, 1 Industrial Park, Bedford, Kentucky. Their zip code is 40006, or give them a call at area 502-255-7456. And now let's let Art tell us what he's got for us today.
This painting graphically illustrates the point that for all its strengths, the .58 caliber rifled musket did not have a volume of fire that was compatible with its accuracy. If soldiers were extended in any sort of skirmish line, their massed volume of fire was so low that they might well be overrun. This problem could in some measure be solved with a breech-loading weapon. The U.S. Indian Wars provide some perfect examples of the changes wrought by the breech loader when it replaced the muzzle-loading rifled musket. It would perhaps be profitable to start with the war between the states. Many historians are prone to criticize the decision-makers in the war between the states as being stupid. The historians say that machine guns and repeating rifles were available. Anyone should have seen their superiority and should have adopted them immediately. Such historians are technical illiterates. The weapons of the war between the states were 19th century weapons and were in no way equivalent to anything we conceive of in the 20th century. For example, to characterize a Gatling gun as a machine gun is the grossest possible twisting of the term. The same is true of the breech-loading and repeating rifles and carbines of the war between the states era. Though they had a greater volume of fire than the rifled musket, those breech loaders and repeaters that did actually work, and there were few of those, suffered severe limitations in combat range. Further, at any one time, there were at least 15 or 20 competing designs of breech loaders and repeaters being shown to the Army. Each one was totally different in design and function, and took a completely different type and caliber of ammunition. However, each one had at least one salesman who could put on a demonstration proving his to be better than the others. Normally that salesman had more than a little political clout from some fellow in Congress. Regardless of what the salesman showed, cartridge cases and rifle designs were in their infancy, and were not up to the claims made for them. When issued in the field, breech loaders like the Joslin were discarded immediately, for they were not worth carrying. Lastly, you should understand that the manufacturing plants, though much better in the North than in the South, were still not capable of producing breech loaders or repeaters in the necessary millions of copies, nor ammunition for them in the required billions of rounds. Given these limitations in manufacturing, the short combat range, the technical infancy and unreliability of the breech loaders and the cartridge cases, there were very good reasons for retaining the .58 caliber rifled musket as the primary shoulder weapon during the war. By 1866, however, things were changing. The attention that the war focused on the problem of breech loaders began to result in some very sound designs. Further, cartridge cases were rapidly improving, and the industrial capacity of the North found that post-war demand was more in line with what they could produce. Into this arena stepped Mr. Erskine Allen, a toolmaker at the Springfield Armory. He patented and showed to the Army his method of converting the Springfield rifled musket into a breech loader. His basic idea was to cut out the breech area of the rifled musket. The resulting trough was filled with a breech block that pivoted upwards like a trap door. After discharge, the hammer was cocked, the lock released, and the breech raised. This extracted and ejected the old cartridge. The shooter then thumbed a new cartridge into the chamber, closed the breech, and was ready to fire. The first Allen conversion was chambered for a metallic cartridge which roughly duplicated the ballistics of the .58 caliber rifled musket. By 1866, his second model conversion, which included relining the barrel to accept a .50 caliber center fire cartridge, was deemed suitable for general military use. I should emphasize here that none of this was possible without a practical center fire cartridge case. The case held powder, bullet, and primer in one package. The cartridge case also served double duty by expanding against the chamber on discharge and sealing the powder gases in the barrel. This cartridge case is critical. The breech loader held the cartridge case, and the case sealed the gases. Back to Mr. Allen's rifle. It was adopted in July of 1866 and put into immediate production. By January of 1867, the first shipments of these rifles were on their way west. These rifles arrived on the frontier none too soon. Serious social discussions with the Sioux Indians were reaching a fever pitch along the Bozeman Trail in Wyoming and Montana during the period 1866 and 67. The Fetterman Massacre had just occurred, and the Army, with its post-war reductions in manpower, was having trouble holding on. The two major forts in the area, Fort Phil Kearny and Fort C.F. Smith, were adequately garrisoned and suffered no major risk of being directly overrun, but their wood-cutting and hay and water-gathering parties were in considerable danger. When confronted with isolated parties of whites, Indian tactics were simple. They attempted to close the range as much as possible, preferably by ruse or surprise. When it was time to join battle, they normally had one or two warriors expose themselves as firing dummies. As soon as the first volley was fired by the whites, the remaining Indians would charge pell-mell, knowing that at worst, the whites with muzzle loaders could fire one more volley before being overrun. In August of 1867, the Indians tried this at a hayfield outside Fort C.F. Smith and in a wood-cutting area outside Fort Phil Kearny. In both cases, they met with a large surprise as they suffered volley after volley in rapid succession. A comparison of what they expected and what they got looks like this. Let's go to the chart. We list the combat range of the breechloader as being slightly better than the rifled musket because of the breechloader's higher velocity and better ballistic coefficient. Its volume of fire is easily double that of the rifled musket. As the range decreased and the need for adjusting sights or attaining a good sight picture consequently decreased, a good soldier with a breechloader could increase this rate of fire. It was not uncommon at close ranges for a breechloader to put out 9 or even 10 rounds a minute. This increase in volume is such that it paid the soldier to manipulate his weapon and continue to fire as the enemy closed, rather than give up firing and fix bayonets for a final contest. Our example pointed this out well. The breechloader had gotten off 7 rounds in the same period that the muzzleloader had fired 2 and was midway through the loading cycle of his 3rd round. The breechloader could continue to fire while the soldier armed with the muzzleloader had no choice but to fix bayonets. Erskine Allen's design would go through many modifications. Starting in 1873, it would be newly manufactured in .45-70 caliber as the Model 1873 Springfield. All told, over 650,000 Allen rifles would be made. Erskine Allen won the wagon box fight and helped open the trails west.
And now, friends, we're going to give you our feature this week from Gun Owners of America. But before we do that, I want to remind those of you who are watching here in the state of Louisiana, there is a concerted effort among some of the anti-gun politicians here in Louisiana to repeal our state concealed carry law. So please, if you have some feelings on this, and I'm sure most of you will, please contact your state representative or state senator. And a lot of people do not know who their state representatives or senators are, and let me tell you how to find out. You can call your registrar of voters at your local county seat. Of course, here in Louisiana, it would be the parish seat, and you can ask them who your local state representative or state senator is, and please write them your feelings. Now, telephone calls are one thing. You can use telegrams, but please, the best thing to do is sit down and write a short letter to the point saying, no, we do not want our concealed carry law repealed, or whatever you want to say to them. So we certainly encourage that because all of us we're going to have to stand up for our rights. These people are living in a different universe than us, but they're trying to force their views on us. So we have to stand up for our rights. And now here's Larry Pratt.
This is Larry Pratt with a commentary from Gun Owners of America. Peter Kassler is an attorney turned firearms instructor and self-defense consultant in California. Not long ago, I talked with him about one of his clients who must remain nameless. Kassler's client needed protection and could not get it from the police. Her case typifies why the citizen's Self-Defense Amendment being promoted by Gun Owners of America is so needed. Kassler's client had her face disfigured by a steel-plated jaw. It was shattered by her 6'3", 200-pound husband. He inflicted the beating while she shielded their infant in her arms and finished it by throwing them into a closet. Kassler himself saw the imprint her blood-stained head made as it smashed against the wall, complete with rivulets of blood running nearly to the floor. The woman tried to press charges after she left the hospital, but sheriff's deputies and county mental health workers persuaded her not to because her husband had promised to attend counseling sessions. After 2 sessions, his mental health counselor refused to see him again out of terror. He threatened to kill her, and the counselor believes he meant it. When Kassler's client tried to reinstitute charges, the deputies told her it was too late to do so. This was untrue. She had at least 3 years to press charges on felonious assault. While the police refused to arrest him, he entered her property daily, prowled around the outside of her house, slept on her lawn at night, and telephoned persistently, often 30 times a day. He stole her mail repeatedly, once removing her telephone bill and calling every number on it to slander her and threaten those who answered the phone. The police would not arrest him for violating the restraining order because information that Kassler had served had not been entered in their computer. They weren't swayed by the fact that service was acknowledged by the county clerk's office and that Kassler showed them county certification documentation of service. The DA would not issue a warrant because the paperwork was not in the computer. In spite of all this, when Kassler's client wanted to get a gun, she had to wait for 15 days before she would be allowed to exercise her constitutional right in California. Who does the law protect? Victims of abuse such as Kassler's client, or 6'3" bullies who should not be out on the street? This is another reason why we need a Citizens Self-Defense Amendment.
For more information, please write Gun Owners of America at 8001 Forbes Place, Suite 102 in Springfield, Virginia. The zip code is 22151, or give them a call at area 703-321-8585.
Get ready to order the most exciting videotape ever offered on television. It's the best of guns, guns, guns. 60 minutes of action, excitement, and the most amazing display of firearms available on video. Pistols, rifles, shotguns, and machine guns. See Bob Munden, the fastest gun who ever lived. USPSA pistol competition. The Steel Challenge. U.S. Marine Corps weapons. Machine guns from around the world, and lots of surprises. If you like guns, you'll love the best of guns, guns, guns. Available only through this special TV offer. Fast draw competition, hand cannon, Soldier of Fortune firepower, how to shoot fast, and lots more like you've never seen it before in this 60-minute action-packed video. Use your credit card to order toll-free now. Call 1-800-942-8273. You'll receive the best of guns, guns, guns for just $29.95 plus $4 shipping. By ordering now, you'll receive this 28-page gun video catalog absolutely free. So call with your credit card right now, 1-800-942-8273, or send check or money order to 7888 Ostro Street, Suite A, San Diego, California, 92111.
The Shootin' Show will be back in 1 minute after this break for your local cable comedy or television station. Now, friends, we want to remind you that we will be moving satellites again on June 18. If you're watching at home on satellite, please make a note of this. If you're an engineer in a TV station or in a cable company control center, please make a note. We'll be moving to Telstar 301 Channel 19 on June 18. For those of you who need this information, we'll be on transponder vertical 10. You know, friends, we're always interested in what our viewers know about or what they're doing out there. And this week we had a good friend of ours named Roy Bridges, whom you see on your screen there, from down in Savannah, Georgia. And Roy sent us some footage on a good friend of his named Eddie Bradley. And Eddie is a very fine shooter, and we're going to show you a little bit of that tape footage. I think you're really going to enjoy it.
My name is Roy Bridges. I'm coming to you today from Savannah, Georgia. And the purpose of our little show here is to show you some accuracy shooting by a very good friend of mine using the 45 ACP. My friend is Eddie Bradley. Eddie has participated in competition shooting matches since the late 1940s. He served in World War II in the Philippines, China, and Japan, and he holds a distinguished gold medal from the Department of the Army in the Service 45 hardball match. After his service in the armed forces, he began to shoot in civilian competitions. From 1947, I guess, to 1950, he shot in rifle competition. He then began to transition to pistol competition, and he's certainly proven his ability here. Eddie holds more records and awards than we could ever mention in our limited time here, but we'll mention a few of them now. Eddie has won 14 national team matches with team members, well-known members, such as Bill Blankenship and Ralph Thompson. He holds 3 individual bullseye records, 2 in 22 caliber, 1 in 45 caliber. He holds a world record in long-range metallic silhouette competition with the Thompson Contender as well.
My name is Edwin Bradley. I'd like to demonstrate the art of precision pistol shooting. First of all, before you start any type of shooting, you want to wear special protection for your ears. Also, you want eye protection at all times. Even if you're standing around someone shooting, you want to wear proper ear and eye protection. Here we have a 45 automatic that I built, and it's a precision shooting 45. Normally people will say, well, a 45, you can't hardly hit anything with it. Well, when we get through here, you'll see that this thing will shoot in the same hole. First of all, we're going to shoot the sharp edge of the axe down there on the target with the 2 clay pigeons on each side. We're going to hit the sharp edge of the axe. The bullet's going to part and break the 2 clay pigeons at the same time. As you can see, we have 1 bullet hole here, and the other half of the bullet went over here. Here we have a candle. I'm going to fasten the candle onto the face of the axe, let it stick up a little bit, and we're going to shoot this candle out without touching the candle. If you'll notice, the bullet is directly over the candle. Part of the wick is gone. Next trick we're going to try to accomplish, we have a small mirror. We're going to shoot this clay pigeon turned backwards.
You know, friends, we want to thank Roy Bridges again for sending us this home video they shot of Mr. Eddie Bradley. And if some of the rest of you out there would have something you'd like featured on our program that you think our other million people out there watching would enjoy, please send it to us at The Shootin' Show, 554 Kings Highway, Shreveport, Louisiana. Our zip code is 71104. Our phone number, you might make a note of this, is area 318-222-8515. And please remember, trick shooting should only be done by a professional under any circumstances. Now, friends, we also want to thank our good friends down at Britton's at 517 Louisiana Avenue in Shreveport, Louisiana. Their zip code is 71101, because they've been a tremendous help to us in product and guns. And if you're in the Arklatex area and you need some shooting supplies or guns, please go to Britton's in Shreveport. You can call them at area 318-221-4131 for the absolute best in firearms and reloading equipment.
Now, friends, we were shooting when we opened the show today with the Automag 2. Now, this gun is made by AMT out in Irwindale, California, and it's in one of my very favorite cartridges, one that I said earlier and on other shows that I think is vastly underrated, and of course that is the 22 Magnum rimfire. Now, these little guns have a most interesting and unique operating mechanism. Of course, we are down here on the range, and we do have mosquitoes. But anyway, this little gun is made entirely of stainless steel. It has the excellent millet sights on it, and it has a pretty good trigger. It is a single-action semi-automatic handgun, and it works a little differently, say, than the Browning principle, which most of you are very familiar with. But the way these guns work is they have some little gas ports. And let me pull the slide back. There we go. You have some little gas ports actually inside the barrel, which retards the action. Instead of having a locking lug, say like the Colt 1911, the little holes actually use gas from the cartridge firing to retard the mechanism and let the pressure safely drop, so the slide can come back and eject the empty cartridge case and pick up another one from the magazine. It's a very unique concept, but it really works well for them. There aren't that many guns chambered, or that many types of guns chambered for the 22 Winchester Magnum rimfire, but I think that's going to change because people are starting to find out what neat cartridges they are. As I've said before, I've had as good a luck on small game with the 22 Magnum cartridge as I have with 9mm. So, I mean, this is just my own experience. So I think for someone who is recoil sensitive, someone who's looking for an accurate, fast-firing semi-automatic handgun will do well to take a look at one of these guns. The way it works, of course, the hammer is cocked upon the slide coming back, and you can have the safety mechanism on in place, and it's turned down. So let's get a look at this a little bit closer. You can see the safety is mounted on the slide itself, and it is up for off, and you'll see the red dot here, and down for on. Now, when the safety is pushed down, this is similar, in fact, to the Wyoming Arms safety mechanism. The firing pin is locked, so nothing can happen. You can pull the trigger, whatever, and the gun cannot fire when the safety is in place. Now, the hammer remains free. You can put the safety on and let the hammer down safely over a chambered round, and it's not going to go off. Of course, we never take chances. We always hold the muzzle in a safe direction. You can carry it with the safety on and the hammer cocked in a holster if you're comfortable with the mechanism once after you've learned how to use it, or you can carry it in the hammer down position. I'll squeeze the trigger and let it down gently with the safety on. So it is a safe design if you use it properly. And of course, to put the gun in action, what you would do, you would cock the hammer with your thumb and push the safety off again with your thumb, and the gun is ready to shoot. Now this gun has a magazine. It's in a straight line, which may or may not be more reliable. It really works well in this particular handgun. It holds 9 in the magazine, and I suppose if you want to, you could carry another one in the chamber, which would make it 10, but on a lot of these guns, especially, this has a lot of magazine tension on this particular one, so I prefer to carry 9 in the gun. I'll load the magazine with 9 cartridges and then rack the slide and leave 8 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber, giving 9 shots total. But it is really a potent combination. It looks like this little gun will shoot into about 2.5 inches at 25 yards, and we chronographed the Winchester 22 Magnum hollow point yesterday, and we were getting 1,150 feet a second. This looks like about a 4.5 inch barrel, and that's nothing to be sneezed at, because these little bullets, hollow points especially, do expand reliably, and it's an excellent small game. And certainly, if this is all I had, I would not be afraid if I was in a home defense situation, because the gun is so easy to shoot accurately. And as you saw at the beginning of the show, we shot some steel targets, and that 22 Magnum will knock them over. It's really amazing just how much power these little guns have. Now then, to load the gun, take the magazine, put it in the base, and we have 9 cartridges in it, and I have the safety on in the on position. And of course, I've already cocked the hammer. It doesn't make any difference. Just put the safety on, pull the slide all the way to the rear, and let it go. And we have the safety applied, of course. And with just pushing the safety off, it's ready to shoot. Now, they caution you with these guns, do not load one from the, pull the slide back and load one directly into the barrel. They tell you in the manual to be sure and let the gun load itself out of the magazine. It's very important. And when the manufacturer says something like that, I'm going to go with the manufacturer. It just doesn't pay to argue with their specifications. They ought to know they built the gun. So these really are potent little guns. I think you'll see in just a moment that it has very little recoil, but it does have some muzzle flash. And there's one other point I want to make. These guns are ammunition sensitive, not for the reason that a lot of other guns are ammunition sensitive. It has to do with the powder itself. Due to the mechanism of the gas operation in one form, you could call it a gas-operated gun in one form or another. It's particular about what ammunition it will shoot reliably and will function the action. The CCI cartridges are not recommended due to the nature of the powder they use. Typically, the CCI Spear 22 Magnums will be a little hotter than the Winchesters, but the gun likes Winchester ammunition. I haven't tried the new Federal 22 Magnums in it, but it functions extremely well with the Winchester 22 Magnums. What you do when you get one of these guns, you have to go out and try it and see what they like. Typically, semi-automatics, you have to remember they're not revolvers. They can be picky about the ammunition that they like, and they like some brands better than others, even for accuracy. So, but typically these guns do function extremely well with the Winchester 22 Magnum rimfire. So let's watch the gun. I think you'll see it's just going to have no recoil at all, and it is loud, and I am going to check my hearing protectors. And now then, let's shoot the gun and just watch it. All right, I'm going to push the safety off, and let's shoot the gun a couple of times here. Now, friends, I think you'll agree. Had a little muzzle flash there. It shoots fast and accurately. So we'll shoot something else in just a moment. But this is a gun. Of course, the slide does not stay back on this gun when it's empty, but you'll see the magazine is empty. And we'll check it and see the chamber is empty. So they're really neat. It's one of the most fun handguns that you could run across. They're, shall we say, cheap to feed. certainly not very expensive, and that is a potent cartridge. So we'll do a little more shooting in just a moment. Now, friends, let's take our Automag 2, and let's just shoot these water jugs. And just for fun, I tell you the truth, I don't know what's going to happen. I know they may or may not blow up our targets, but hey, let's just find out. And we have chambered around, we have applied the safety, and we have 9 rounds of the gun. Let's give it a chance here. Push the safety off, and let's go for that one out there. A neat concept, of course. I have applied the safety. Trust me on this one of the most fun guns that you can own, and one that I think is certainly worth taking a look at. This is a keeper. This is one just, if you have other guns, you can really also enjoy shooting the .22 Magnum rimfire, and it's potent, it's powerful, and a lot of fun. And that's enough reason right there to own a firearm, just have fun with.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after this break for your local cable company or television station. Now, friends, we want to remind you we'll be changing satellites again. Beginning June 18, the Shootin' Show will be seen on Telstar 301, Channel 19. For those of you watching at home by satellite, please make a note of this. If you're in a television station or cable company control room, please make a note. We'll be on Telstar 301, Channel 19 at the same times on June 18. Also, our transponder, a vertical will be 10, or transponder 10 vertical, whatever, for those of you who need that information. So hang in there with us. We want to remind you of our good friends at Shooting Times magazine, the absolute best general information shooting magazine available on your newsstand today. They have all sorts of articles on handguns and long guns and hunting and all sorts of information about reloading and gun safety and many, many other fine features by some of your favorite firearms writers. For subscription information, call Shooting Times at 1-800-727-4353. Shooting Times, the best there is. Now, friends, you see I'm holding one of the great Glock handguns, and this is one of the most unique concepts to come along in many years. It marries cutting-edge technology with high magazine capacity. The Glocks are available in calibers from 9mm all the way to 45 ACP, and their service record is just excellent. If you've been shooting a revolver and want to make a transition to a semi-automatic handgun, you really should take a look at the Glock. They're very safe and sound mechanisms, and we highly recommend them.
Now, friends, I guess I could say that I'm holding, shall we say, a bear of a handgun, and I can call it that, no pun intended, because this is the LAR Grizzly, and this is just about the most potent package for its size. I suppose it is in 45 Winchester Magnum, and I say potent for its size. It has roughly, I'm going to call that a 6-inch barrel on this gun, and essentially this gun duplicates the 44 Magnum revolver cartridge in a semi-automatic cartridge, of course the 45 Winchester Magnum. They're very similar as far as striking power, as far as velocity, for bullet weight, but the good news is this Grizzly is made on a 1911 pattern. In fact, some of the parts on this gun will interchange with the 1911 Colt, but it's much bigger and much stronger in areas where it needs to be. This gun has excellent millet sights on it. It has a good trigger, and this gun used to belong to me before I had some sort of fit and traded off for one reason or another, but and certainly no reference on the gun, because we go through a lot of guns on our program. We'll trade one off if it belongs to one of us involved and get something else to show for the program. But it has Packmire grips on it. It's just, all I can say, this is a tremendous handgun for its size, especially because it's really not that large a package. It holds 7 in the magazine and 1 in the chamber, so you've got 8 rounds of 45 Winchester Magnum. Now, this is a factory Winchester full metal jacket 45 Win Mag, and we chronographed these loads yesterday at 1,350 feet a second. Well, that's a tremendous amount of energy with a 230 grain bullet. You figure 1,350 feet a second versus about 800 or 825 or so feet a second for a 45 government model out of a 5-inch Colt in 45 ACP. This is essentially a lengthened 45 ACP. Of course, it's much longer. It uses the same type bullet, and with full metal jacket ammunition, you have a tremendous amount of penetration capability. But for hunting, I would much prefer a soft nose or a jacketed hollow point. And these guns are like any other semi-automatic. You have to find out what bullet profile they prefer and they're reliable with. But I went ahead and fitted, the good folks at LAR offer a durability package. It's a dual recoil spring and a full-length recoil spring guide, which I put on this gun because I was going to shoot it with some pretty heavy hand loads, and it works like a charm. It really, these guns are pretty expensive. I think they're $800 or $900 or so in that price range, depending on where you may find one, and they work just like a standard 45 government model Colt. They're extremely well made. They're certainly the experience I've had has been they're very rugged and durable guns, and you just have to go out and try them and see what bullets they like, what ammunition they like to make the gun function well. But when you find the right combination, these are extremely potent. It's fairly lightweight. Again, it's not that large. It, in fact, is about the same size as our Smith & Wesson 629 with a 5-inch barrel. Now, again, I'm not going to say that I would take this gun over a 44 Magnum revolver, but it is an alternative. If you like semi-automatic handguns, well, this is one that for hunting or for extreme power that you darn sure ought to take a look at. It has a grip safety, just like the 1911s. So this gun, and we know it's unloaded, this gun can be safely carried in a holster, cocked, and with the safety locked on. Again, even if your safety is pushed off inadvertently, the gun, unless this grip safety is depressed, cannot fire. So you have an extra safety mechanism there that makes these guns safe to carry. A lot of you know that I'm not too crazy about carrying a gun cocked, even with safety on, without a grip safety, but this is another case that I feel very comfortable with this gun. On any of the semi-automatic pistols where you're depending on one safety or two safeties or ever what, one of the things that we want to mention about the government models, you need to be sure that the gun is in proper working order. You know, there are veterans of several different wars out there that have gotten into the hands of a number of people, whether they were in the military or otherwise, and a lot of these guns are just plain old. Some of them are worn. So if you're in doubt about the condition of your government model, you should have it checked by a competent gunsmith. And there are a lot of them out there, and they're so simply made and easy to check. You're just you're something you really need to do for safety's sake, because we want to keep our sport and our lives and our health safe, and safe. But this Grizzly is made with a considerably heavier slide than the 45 ACPs, and it really is a marvel of engineering, because that is such a tremendous cartridge in a fairly light and compact package as this Grizzly Mark I. So we're going to shoot this in just a moment. They also take down just like a 1911, and these guns normally are extremely accurate. They'll shoot into 3 inches or 4 inches at 50 yards, possibly not as accurate as some of the very best revolvers, but trust me on this one, with a little work on these guns, on any of the 1911 pattern semi-automatics, they can be made to shoot as well as anything else. So this is a lot of fun. It's not a gun for a beginner. It's not for someone who's looking for a gun to casually shoot, because the ammunition, of course, is somewhat more expensive, and it does have some recoil. It's not brutal, but it does have some recoil. It is a potent cartridge. So we'll shoot this in just a moment and let you look at it. Now, friends, you can see in comparison, I have the .45 Winchester Magnum cartridge on your right and the .44 Magnum cartridge on your left, and they're pretty close in size. The .44 Magnum, a .44, is actually 429 thousandths in diameter, whereas the .45 Winchester Magnum actually is 451 thousandths in diameter. It's just a slightly larger slug in diameter, slightly larger case, but they're very, very close in what they actually do. All right, friends, let's shoot this .45 Winchester Magnum and this LAR Grizzly. And I want to tell our cameraman to be sure to have his hearing protection in, because these things are, and let me check mine too, because they are in fact loud. So you load the gun, and I would like to mention before I shoot it, these guns are available in a number of different calibers, a number of different chambers. All you have to do is change the barrel and possibly the slide here, and they make it in 10 millimeter, in 45 ACP, several other calibers other than the .45 Winchester Magnum, and I believe they do have an extremely potent Wildcat based on the .45 Win Mag case. But you shoot these guns, you don't try and strangle them, but you definitely want that firm wrist, but you sort of let yourself recoil with the gun, because you do have some recoil. Anytime you have a powerful cartridge like that in a relatively compact gun, you're going to have some recoil, but it's not bad. It's not that bad. And these guns have excellent triggers typically. So let's pull the slide all the way back, and they have good springs, let me tell you, and let it go and apply the safety. Now then, watch the gun in recoil when I shoot it. You may see a little muzzle flash too here. So let's look at it for a moment. Yeah, it's, shall we say, somewhat potent. Well, wasn't too bad actually, was it? For a full metal jacket bullet moving 1,350 feet a second. Let's shoot it again. Tremendous gun. LAR Grizzly.
And we want to remember our good friends at Shotgun News, Post Office Box 669, Hastings, Nebraska. The zip code is 68902. Their phone number is area 402-463-4589. 36 big issues for only $20. MasterCard or Visa for subscriptions only. Call 1-800-345-6923. Don't put it off. Do it today. Friends, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of The Shootin' Show. I'm Johnny Rowland, your host, and we hope that we can come back to your house again next week. If you would like to be on our show with some sort of club or music presentation, give us a call at area 318-222-8515. Remember, copies of our shows are available for $10.95 plus postage per weekly program. And we want to remind you to call your local cable companies, because we are free to them and we want to be in as many areas as possible. See you next week.